Well, hello everyone. It is so good to see you this morning. My name is Pastor Jason, and I'm one of the pastors here at Hope Church. And I'm so thankful that you've joined us this morning, part of our online ministry, the ministry of Hope Church. We're thankful that we're one worshiping community, but we worship in a couple different ways. Many of us worship online, and obviously you're one of those that is joining us online today. And I'm so thankful that you're with us. We also have a community that gathers together at our Wilmington Pk location in Dayton, Ohio. Every once in a while, we want to take a moment to kind of share what's going on in the life and ministry of Hope Church and what's going on in the world and how we believe God is connecting Hope Church to the rest of the world. And so we just wanted to, instead of our normal expositional preaching that we do, we wanted to share some of these things with you this morning, so that you can kind of see what God is doing in the life of this ministry, and then hopefully we can see what's going on in your life and how God might be connecting the life of Hope Church and then what He's doing in your life as well. This last year has clearly been a disruptive year. Just over 15 months ago, we got word that we were going to probably go into a 2-week shutdown throughout our state. And 2 weeks has turned into just shy of 15 to 16 months. And it's been a time of enormous disruption. There's been all kind of disruption that's sort of been a ripple effect of that. And I'm so thankful just for the faithfulness and the consistency of the people that consider Hope Church their home, and I'm grateful for that. It's been said that basically some people would argue that our culture is going through a moment of disruption. Some people have even said our culture in some ways sort of feels like it's going through a moment of a nervous breakdown. And in times when things get disruptive and when things get confusing and going through times that are uncertain, that causes us even more to trust in what God is doing and what God has done providentially through history. And so this morning, I just want to take a few moments. First of all, I just want to thank you for being part of this ministry, because I know in the Dayton area there's 800 some churches, there's thousands of ministries that are online, and there's other places that you could go and other services you could watch, but you have made Hope Church a part of you. And so we're thankful for that. I want to thank you for that, and just for your ongoing engagement. But I do want to talk about a few of the disruptions that we're seeing and how we believe God is positioning Hope Church to respond to these things in the future. People say every 500 years there's a major moment of history. And if we look about 500 years ago, just over 500 years ago, we had the Protestant Reformation that actually in many ways coincided with the invention of the printing press. With the invention of the printing press, all of a sudden you have knowledge and information spreading throughout the world. And people that previously could never read the Scriptures on their own actually have the Bible written in their own language. And so at the time when that took place, you have this massive revival that begins to take place because there is a new medium of communication that had never taken place before. Because books and content could be distributed quickly and people could have access to the Scriptures in their own language. Well, up until the last few years, things have been going in the same direction. But with the invention of the internet and with the invention of smartphone, and particularly social media and all this connectedness that we have, we are going now through another disruption that's sort of taking place at the same time. And so it's been said that culture reinvents itself every 5 years, and I believe that's true. But when you have something that's been taking place for a while and then you introduce a pandemic, you have a massive disruption. And actually you have an acceleration of what has previously already been taking place. And so I want to take a moment and just kind of look at this cultural moment that we're in. I want to take a snapshot of it, and then I want to see how I believe God is is moving the church, in particular Hope Church, to respond to this unique cultural moment. The first thing that we're seeing take place in this cultural moment is we're seeing a massive. Let me put it this way: we're seeing the influence of the church decline in Europe and in North America, while it is massively accelerating around the rest of the world. We read lots of articles about how it's said that the church is in decline and how people are leaving the church and how the world is becoming less Christian than it was before. That's simply not true. That is true in Europe and is true in North America, but it is not true globally. In fact, as Europe and North America become less Christian, according to research, the church globally is becoming more Christian. It's becoming more Christian in Latin America, more Christian in Africa, more Christian in Asia. In fact, they say that there are more Anglicans in Ghana now than there are in England itself. So what's happening is we're in this unique cultural moment, not where people are walking away from the church, but that the growth and influence and spread and impact of the church is taking place. And in fact, it's accelerating probably at a faster rate than any point of history. It's just not happening in the neighborhoods of most of the places within our community. In fact, when we look in America, we look at the fastest growing pockets of revival that is taking place in America. It's taking place in churches that are mainly comprised of first generation immigrants. And it's interesting, what people are saying is that those churches are growing and they're thriving, and they're thriving with people that were whose families were impacted by American and British missionaries 100 years ago. And so the church, in some ways, is becoming globally. It's becoming less Christian in North America and Europe, but it's becoming more Christian throughout the rest of the world. There's actually another phenomenon that's taking place as well. It's been said that, like in America, that we see three sort of pockets of belief. There is on one hand you have what many people would call Orthodox Christians. These are people, and I would put myself in this category, that take the Bible seriously, that believe that Jesus is the Son of God, that believe that God performed miracles, and that Jesus is the Son of God, the triune God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. We believe that the Bible is the Word of God and take it very, very serious. Then there's another on the other end of the spectrum, which people would call secularist. And there are people that most would say that don't believe in a particular, don't believe in the value of Christianity or the value of religion in general. And then there's sort of a middle group. And the middle group are what we would call, what's historically been called mainlines. And mainlines are people that believe the Bible has some good stories and some good morals, but it's not necessarily the Word of God. So you have the Orthodox that believe the Bible is the Word of God. You have this middle group that believe the Bible has some good stories, but they're just good stories or good fables. They tell some good tales, but they're really not life and death. And then those that are just completely uninterested in general. Well, the idea was that that those that take the Bible seriously would begin thinking that it's they believe that those that were in this group would move to the middle, that they would just begin believing that the Bible was just a bunch of fables and a bunch of fairy tales, and those that already believed the Bible was a bunch of fables and a bunch of fairy tales would go into the we'll just call them the apathetic group. Well, historically, that's the way people thought those trends were going to take place. But what we found out historically is that what's happening is the middle group has dissolved and the two other groups have gotten larger. So people with historical, biblical, orthodox beliefs are growing. People that have no religious affiliation are growing. And people that have some religious affiliation are shrinking. So in many ways, the church is growing while at the same time, those that have no religious belief at all is also growing. And so we have this strange dynamic that's taking place in the world. The second thing that we're seeing is that the churches that are thriving are much more like the first century church. Now, there's something very unique about the first century church. Something very unique. That is that Rome, although it was a cosmopolitan society, within Rome it was a very class-structured society, and it was a society where people didn't necessarily mingle with people unlike themselves. And so one of the things that we're finding is that the church in Rome was the early church. When I say church in Rome, I'm talking about in the first century. What we're finding is the church was a unique religious and cultural phenomena because it was the only place in the early first century where you had people in church families from every different background, every different culture, every different economic strata. It was a collection of people that outside of the church would have never had anything to do with each other. One of the things that I'm amazed at in our culture and in our ministry is that when God moves genuinely among His people, He does not limit it to one group in particular. But when the tide rises, it rises for all God's people. I'm thankful that disruption is taking place in our church today. I'm thankful that it's taking place in our community today. Are things perfect in our community? Are things perfect in our church? Are things perfect in our city? Absolutely not. But I believe that God is moving and working and leading us to a better place than we have been historically. There's a third disruption that we're beginning to see. And that is that historically in churches here in our community, for about the past 50 years, churches have operated in a come and see, not a go and be type community. It was sort of understood that if the church offers enough programs, and if the church offers really good programs, the people in community will clear their calendar in order to participate in all the programs the church offers. And so it was said, churches ought to offer a program 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Or some people would say it ought to be offering programs from 9 in the morning to 9 at night, 7 days a week, whatever it is. But one of the things that we've found is that we as a culture, in our simplicity, in our smartphones, in our laptops, in our emails, in our microwaves, all the things that have been designed to save time actually have given us less time. And so what we've found is that people, just in general, are moving from one thing to the next and creating programs for people's calendars typically is not as effective as it used to be. What we found is this: that people can make the greatest impact of the gospel by representing Christ and sharing Christ wherever they're at. I've earned the nickname for I guess good reason, of the nickname of Captain Obvious. And every once in a while I'll realize something, but I usually realize it far after somebody else does. A couple years ago I was trying to figure out, I'm like, you know what, I really want Hope Church to make a radical difference in our community. And I was in an activity with one of my kids, and it was an activity that's really busy. So it's 4 or 5 nights a week. I'm there with parents 4 or 5 nights a week, and I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, you know what? We need to figure out a program. I need to figure out a way that I can share the gospel, that I can share the love of Christ, the redemptive message of Jesus with other people. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm just typing away on my laptop and doing all this research. I got to figure something out, and then I was like, okay, we need to design a program. We need to have the program at the church. We need to have it at a certain time. Then we need to invite people. We got to find volunteers to invite people to this program. And so we got to get volunteers. We got to get people. Then we got to market it. Then we got to get them there. Once we get them there, then we can build relationships. But then we got to figure out what's important to them and find a program to meet the need that's important to them. And then I was like, well, where am I going to get these volunteers? Because the volunteers are busy. And the people that I invite these programs to, well, they're already overwhelmed. They don't have the time to come to these programs. And so I'm like, what could I do? And then I just stopped and thought. I said, wait a minute, Jason. This is my Captain Obvious moment. I said, Jason, you're with the very people that your church is trying to serve 8, 10, 12 hours a week out in the community. At what point did we get to the point that we have to believe that in order for us to minister to the people around us, that we have to find a way to bring them to the church, to minister to them there? Why can't we find a way to minister to the people that we're with every single day? So it was at that point that I said, wait a minute. If I'm around these people all the time, then I have this great opportunity to share Christ with them. And wait a minute. Not only can I do that, but all the people that would be required to run these programs are around other people as well. And they can share Christ as well. And I was like, what if as a church, instead of trying to find all these ways that we can bring people in our community to our church, what if we became a church that looked for ways that we can go out and make a difference in our community? I believe, if you look at the early church, Jesus says, go and make disciples. He doesn't say, ask people to come and make disciples. Jesus is always, in the book of Acts, it's always about going. And I believe for us to have a great ministry, we need to focus more on not just come and see, but rather a go and be community. Another thing that we've noticed lately is a disruption in our community is that people begin their primary relationships online and then move offline. It's amazing. A couple years ago, if you wanted to, if you like say 20, 30 years ago, if you moved to a new town and you wanted to network, you would have to begin to get to know people and get established and begin doing these things. You know what? With a smartphone, you can find out everything that you need to know. And it's the same thing is true in the life of the church. Everything we do, we start online, and then we move to in person. Kerry Newhoff will talk about this in a great way. He'll use dating as an example. Most people find their partners online now, not in person anymore. The purpose is you start a relationship online with the intention of taking that relationship offline. And in everything, the goal isn't to keep that relationship online, but to establish it and start it online and to finish it offline. This week, I started a relationship online that I finished offline. I started a relationship with a Chipotle burrito. All right? I needed to pick something up, and so I did the same thing you do. I went online, I ordered the app, I figured it out, I set it up. When it is a relationship I started online and moved offline. Most couples that get married now, they start the relationship online, they move it offline. Now, here's why this is important to us. God has designed His people to live in community. And so I love what we're doing online. I love the fact that you're engaging with us and you're participating with this. But I believe that that what God is starting online with you, that perhaps God wants to move offline. And by that I mean it's not just simply about watching a service every now and then or watching a service regularly. But it's about the service and about the ministry connecting you to people that can make a difference in your life and that you can share and do life together. And I understand community looks much different than it used to. I understand it's possible that if you live in the Dayton area here to be part of one of our worshiping communities, one of our small group communities, and if you're watching here not in the Dayton area, we have groups that meet online that even though it's still online, you are able to connect and engage with other people. And so we're not only just sharing what God's Word says, but we're beginning to share our lives as well and to walk through things together. I'm thankful for our ministry online and just the investment that people are making in it and how God is using that in great ways. One final thing that is a disruption that we're seeing that I want to draw attention to, and that is the disruption of children's and youth ministry. And this is something that we'll see here on our campus, but I'm sure that you can connect to as well. We began to notice a couple trends. One is, when we look in the Scriptures, Paul tells Timothy, he says, older men are to teach younger men, and older women are to teach younger women. And so there seems to be this multi-generational teaching that takes place generation after generation. And that happened for about 1980 years. And then in around 1980, we came up with this brilliant idea. When I say we, like the church in North America came up with this brilliant idea. You know what? Children, the idea was this. Children are too young and distracted to be in church. We need to give them their own church at the same time. And so what we did is we took children out of the church and we put them in their own church with the idea that we could teach them on their level. And it's convenient for parents because parents came to the big church, kids went to the little church, and everybody was happy. The problem is the children never came back to quote-unquote the big church. And in creating this separate environment for them, we unintentionally communicated a couple things to them. We didn't mean to. This was just what happened. We unintentionally communicated to them that A, church is boring. Therefore, you have to go to your own room that's more fun. B, we unintentionally communicated to them, we didn't mean this, but this is what they heard. You really don't belong here. You belong over there, not here. And the third thing that we communicated to them is go with your friends, not with your church family. And so when they went to college, they went with their friends. And when their friends quit going to college, they quit going to church. And so one of the things that we are committed to at this point in our ministry, and it may change, but one of the things that we're committed to here at Hope Church is that children and youth worship in the main service with their parents. And here's why. Well, I think you just saw a couple of the reasons why. Because we want to communicate to them that they're important, that their church family is their primary family outside. Their family and church family are their primary families. That they stay with their families, not go with their friends, and that they're welcome here in a place that's relevant. Now, what we have found out is that if you send your kids to, and that's what works for us. Other ministries may be different. But if you ever picked up your child from school, or if you ever, after church, you've tried to talk with your kids about what they did in kids' church. What'd you guys do today? Nothing. Where'd you learn today? I don't know. What we have found is when adults and children worship together, that when they go to lunch, you know what they do? They talk about the message that they all heard. And so the parents can say, oh, what did you think when the pastor said this? Or the child can say, how is it that that Jonah could live in the belly of a whale 3 days, Was it a whale or was it a fish? And it naturally creates discussion. What we found is when we have the same conversation with the adults and the parents, we found that the parents and the children, with the parents and the children, they can actually learn together. And this idea of thinking, well, this idea that kids aren't ready for that kind of stuff. Listen, have you ever tried, this last year, us as parents, if we have figured out anything, it's that our kids do a whole lot of complicated stuff at a young age. You're looking up these math problems. You're trying to Google them, trying to figure out how to help your children with the answer. If they can handle that, then they can handle teaching from the Scriptures and integrating it into life. That's one of our core values around here. So how does that affect what we do? How does that affect what we do? Let me just give you a couple real specific things. Number one, we are a disciple-making community, which means we are committed to following Jesus, being changed by Jesus, and being committed to the mission of Jesus. And that's our core beliefs and core values. Everything around here is about helping you be a disciple and helping you make disciples. Disciples simply are those that know Jesus, are changed by Jesus, and are committed to the mission of Jesus. The second thing is that we feature what we call here expository preaching, and that just simply means that we read the Scriptures, we explain the Scriptures, and we apply the Scriptures to life. One of my favorite verses about this is in Nehemiah chapter 8. And Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 8 says this. It says, they read from the book of the law of God clearly, and they gave the sense so that the people understood the reading. They read the Bible, or they read the law, they explained it, and they helped it. They made sense of it. We read the Bible, explain the Bible, apply the Bible, and we're committed to that as a ministry. Next, we're intentionally simple. And you've probably heard me say this before. In fact, I've said it a few minutes ago. We believe that the best thing that we can do for our people is help each of us be disciples, and then not only do that, but to make a difference in our community. And so we try not to put a lot of competing things on your calendar. We ask everybody to be involved in church on Sunday morning or to watch us online, be engaged with us online. We ask everybody to be in a community group. We ask everybody to serve in a specific area of giftedness. That's just about it. But we try to keep things simple so that you can invest your life in your family and in people in your community and share the redemptive love of Christ with them. There's a couple of just real simple ways that we ask people to serve around here. We ask people to serve in media. We ask people to serve in children and youth. We ask people to serve with our facilities. We ask people to serve in worship, and then what we call our First Impressions ministry. And this is a general rule. We try to make it as engaging and as rewarding and as joyful as possible. And finally, I just want you to know that making a difference is important to us. One of the things that we have found out is that, and this is just from our experience, we found out that there are a lot of people in our community that are doing some really, really good things. Our food bank here in Dayton is phenomenal. It gives away tons of food every single week. We found that there's whole numerous organizations that are in our community. And what we have found is that one of the things that we can do effectively is we can partner with organizations that are already doing things well. And so at least here in the Dayton area, we partner with the Bridget's Path Ministry it's designed for children that are born with an addiction to opioids. And we encourage people to serve in that ministry. We have given to that ministry, and we know that it's making a significant impact. We support our Josh Recovery Ministry, which is a place for men to come and to take that next step toward recovery wherever whatever that is, in an ongoing life of recovery. And we're so thankful for how we've been able to invest in that ministry financially, and how many of our men give so much of themselves to that ministry, to seeing radical life make changes radically in life. We're committed to our maternity center in Zambia, where 70 mothers a month give birth in safe, sanitary, secure facility that, by God's grace, Hope Church helped raise the funds to erect a number of years ago. We have ministries in the Philippines and in Latin America and in Germany and in other places in the world, and making a difference is just a huge part of what we do. We basically believe here that God has called us to make a difference wherever we go. And so we believe that in order to be salt and light in our community, that we have to be in our community. And so we believe when Jesus says, go and make disciples, that we go intentionally. So the question is, where has God called you to serve? Where has God called me to serve? In many cases, not always, but usually, God has called us to serve where we already find ourselves. And so I want to encourage you to be part of what God is doing by being a disciple and making disciples and demonstrating the redemptive love of Jesus in the places you're already at, with the people that you're already involved in. I was sharing with many people in our church family a few years ago. I was watching an interview with Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, a number of years ago. And I'll never forget this. I was telling people I was up late one night. I couldn't sleep, so I hit the nuclear option. I was watching Charlie Rose at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And he's interviewing Bezos. And this is right when the Kindle came out. And Charlie Rose asked me, he said, how is it that you figure out, this Kindle is very similar to the iPad. How is it that you figure out what Apple's going to do and then try to beat Apple to it? How is it that you predict the future like that? And Bezos said something very simple. And I thought this was profound. He said, I don't look and try to predict the future, he says, but I look to the past and I ask myself, what has always worked in the past? And I just believe that it'll work in the future. And at that time, Bezos said, for the last 4,000 years, people have been reading books. And I'm just crazy enough to believe that in the future, they're going to keep reading books. And so we created the Kindle to help people read books. If you noticed, Amazon has bought Whole Foods recently. You know why? Because they've figured out that for the last thousands and thousands of years, people have, in one form or another, consumed food. They're going to continue to consume food, and Amazon wants to help them consume food. Amazon has figured out that people like to open up their door and see packages. So they're trying to find out ways to get packages to people. It's not a product, but it's a process. Groceries, packages, food, same thing. When I look at the history of the church, throughout any generation, any culture, any time in history, I notice there are certain things that always seem to take place when God moves. The preaching of His Word, the prayer of His people, and people sharing the gospel with people as they go. And I'm just convinced, I'm just crazy enough to believe that in a world with 1 million disruptions, that what the world needs most is the preaching of God's Word, the prayers of God's people, and the influence of God's people as well. My job here at Hope is to invite you on that journey with us. No matter what your next step is, I want to help you take that step. So, we talk about relationships starting online and ending in person. If you're shopping for a car, you look for a car online, and then you find one, and then you got to kick the tires before you buy it. So, you may have been kicking the tires of Hope Church for a while. I want to help you take your next step, no matter what it is. So maybe you're not part of a group. I'd love to get you connected with some other believers that will help you, and some other people that are checking out the faith, that you can walk through life together. I'd love to help you take that step. Maybe you're someone that you've been walking with Jesus for a while and you've never made a public declaration by being baptized. I'd love to baptize you here at Hope Church. Maybe you're someone that you just need some help and somebody to talk to. We'd love to be that person for you as well. Whatever it is, whatever God is leading you to do, we want to be able to help you take that next step, whatever it is. So here's a couple ways that you can connect with us. Number one, you can find us on our website at www.hopeindayton.org. You can find all about us, and you can connect with us through there. You can find me, Jason, at hopeindayton.org. Love to be able to connect with you. We have an app that you can find on both Android and Apple devices. Go to the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. It's Hope in Dayton. Hope in Dayton. Let me say it one more time. Hope in Dayton. And that's how you find the app, and you can find all about the ministries and opportunities to engage with us there. Also, I'm going to give you the opportunity to give. You can give through our website. You can give through our app. You can give through our text to give. And, of course, you can give by mailing your cash or checks to our Wilmington Pk location. I'd love to connect with you online. I'd love to see you here at our Wilmington Pk location, and love to be able just to walk through these difficult and disruptive times with you. I believe that we're at a great moment in history of our world. I believe that God is doing some amazing things, and I'd love for you to be involved with this, and I'd love to help you take that next step, whatever it is. Let me pray for us. Okay? Father, we thank you just for the privilege of being connected to you when the world seems like it's disruptive in every sense. Father, I thank you that you are a God that draws people to yourself. I'm thankful that you're among us. I'm thankful that you're active among us. And I'm thankful that you still not only draw us to yourself, but you draw us in community with one another. Would you be with us, Lord God, and strengthen us and help us be obedient to that next step no matter what it is. It's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Well, God bless you. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next Sunday.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You will lead me through the fire, and in darkest night, you were close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness I've got